a nutritional therapist, eating disorder coach, and personal trainer. We've got Becky here. Becky, introduce yourself, please.
Hiya, my name's Becky Stone. I'm a clinical supervisor and eating disorder specialist therapist.
Amazing. And today we've got a guest on the show. We've got Richard Palmer. Richard, would you like to introduce yourself for us, please?
Hello, I'm Richard Palmer. I'm an NCS accredited eating disorder therapist and supervisor.
Thank you very much. How long have you been doing your job for, Richard? How long have you been working with eating disorders?
Disorders coming up to 2.5 years. So I did my training in 2020, qualified in 2020, and started with clients in March 2020.
Okay, amazing. And do you enjoy what you do? You enjoying it at the moment?
Love it.
Okay.
Love it. Is there any better client group than people with eating disorders?
Okay, amazing. Are you working online or face-to-face?
Bit of both, but literally 50-50. Half online, half come into my office. All adults are all 18 plus, mostly females, but I have a couple of males, and mostly anorexia, but a couple of bulimia and binge eating disorder and ARFID.
Oh, okay, so you're working with ARFID too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, amazing. That's really good to know. So technically you're working with all different types of eating disorders here then?
Yes, it does depend on the cause for the ARFID. If it's more of a neurodivergent cause, then I would refer that to someone else. But if it's more of an anxiety cause, then I work with that. But I've never worked with pica or rumination disorder.
No.
So, no.
I don't even know what it is.
I've not worked with that before. Yeah, that's not my speciality personally. If I didn't know how to work with that, I would, of course, obviously, like what you're doing, I would refer on to someone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really important to see. But I think today, Becky, we're going to be talking about sort of professional competency, aren't we, with working with eating disorders?
Yeah, so recently I've gone into, I think some of you might have seen on social media where I'd gone into CCT, which is community counselling training in Canterbury. I go in every year. I think it's been my fourth or fifth year, and more so now I've specialised in eating disorders. I know how important it is that you need to be trained in this area. Otherwise, if you haven't got the right training and the right expertise in it, then it's dangerous. And I think even for myself as a student, when I was doing, I mean, I've been qualified about, I want to say 12, 13 years now, that I didn't have this knowledge and awareness about how important it is to work with eating disorders and have that specialism training. So when I went in, I think it was 2 weeks ago that I went in and had the conversation, I think it was about 45 students, and I said to them all about the eating disorders and how important it is, that it's very easy to tick the box when you go on the counselling directory, when you go on the Psychology Today, any of the sort of platforms that we can advertise ourselves as therapists on. We just tick the box saying we can work with eating disorders, and actually it is so dangerous. And I know I've had clients come through who've worked with other counsellors, and the hard work that it's taken to unravel and rebuild and get them back on track. So I think there needs to be more awareness, especially in the counselling training centres, more so about making sure counsellors are aware that they don't just tick the box, because actually it can really leave them in sticky water. And if they have to stand up in a court of law and say that they're professionally competent in what they're doing, they won't be able to do that, and that's dangerous. And as supervisors, and I don't know about yourself, Richard, as well, is that if I've got any supervisees that are coming through, I'm like, refer on. They need either to come, and if there's like an ethical crossover, then I won't be able to take them on. But if there's a way that we can support them through a referral and making sure they've got the correct support, I think that's really important. But I think supervisors need to be aware as well of how dangerous it is.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think, I'm sure we've all had clients where they've been working with someone who said they could work with eating disorders, and they've actually just made the situation worse. Client comes to us in a far more sort of ill state than they were, and it takes far longer to help them recover. And eating disorders, of course, you've got the physical side of it as well. They can deteriorate really quite quickly if you don't know what you're doing.
I think it's just talking about it more. Obviously, we're talking about it more now, just sort of spreading awareness out there and getting people to ask, are you qualified to work with eating disorders? Getting them to ask those questions. Do you have this qualification? Are you part of this body? getting people to ask those questions before they try to go get help from someone. And then obviously counsellors knowing that, you know, that you could do more harm than good, and just knowing that and being more aware of it and just talking about it more, because it's, I mean, at the end it is quite a sort of unregulated industry, isn't it, really?
I think that's what comes in with life coaching as well. So at the moment I'm doing a life coaching course, and that's, counselling is just the same type of industry as well. But I think the more people go on their own experience with eating disorders, and like myself and Jen, we've had eating disorders. I don't know about you, Richard, have you?
Yeah.
That we've all had, so we can all go on our own experiences, but we don't know it all.
No,
unless you're trained in it. I mean, even we're trained in it, but we don't know what is actually going on for that client. And then we use the information and the tools that we have and the knowledge and the training that we have to tweak it and make it adaptable back for the client. But I think there's too many people out there saying that they can specialize or they can work, but actually they're not insured, they're not trained in it, they can't back it up.
Yeah, I think it's really important what you just said about, despite us all, we've all had eating disorders, we can all relate, but that doesn't mean we know everything. Like, if I did training, I learned so much on that I didn't know, and we don't know what's going through a client's mind. You can't assume that you know we can't assume that we know what they're thinking, because we don't. And everyone is different. So I think it's really important what you just said, actually. You know, despite us having experience with eating disorders, doesn't mean that we know everything.
No, I completely agree. We can't know everything, can we?
No, and I think sometimes it comes with experience, but even the client is their own expert. We're here, I call it tools in the toolbox. So I'm like, I've got a Phillips screwdriver, not that I know which one is what. My son has a right little laugh at me. He's like, Mum, let me do it. But we have tools in the toolbox, and it doesn't mean which, like, we've got the correct screwdriver. We've got to find which one works to fit to help the client.
Yeah, because everyone is different. Something might work for one person that might not work for the other, so everyone's different.
Are you finding that, Richard, as people are coming through, that you're having to adapt your way of working constantly?
Absolutely. I've got quite an extensive toolbox, to use your word, of tools to use with clients, but every client and every session will be different, depending on what they're actually presenting with.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there's that, you've got to use the toolbox stuff, and then you have to have a bit of a sift around, because sometimes the client just looks at you quite blankly, it's like that, and then inside you're like, this ain't working.
It's like a Mary Poppins moment. Oh, what's in my bag? I'm going to pull this out.
And you can always tell on the client's face when it's not working, and you're like, all right,
yeah,
this.
Oh yeah, I know that pressure in a session when you can see they're just not engaging with it. Like, oh right, okay, let's change.
And I think it's really important that, because we've got the experience and the knowledge behind us, we can sort of roll with it. But I think if you haven't got that knowledge or training behind, people who've got eating disorders, they will gravitate towards counsellors that haven't got the training, because they know that they're going to collude in the eating disorder. And I don't know about you, Richard or Jenny, when I first started training and I started specialising, I was repelling clients, and I was like, what's going on? It's like a really different model of being a generic therapist to then specialising, and people weren't coming back. And I was thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? What am I not good enough? Am I not? And then I worked it out that actually, because I was calling the eating disorder out and I was being able to go, right, are you ready, willing and able? Well, they weren't. So that's how I was repelling people. And I've got a really good recovery rate. And my clients do stay with me, and they do get to the end of where they need to be. But you can spot, more so with the experience now, you can spot the people who are not ready.
Absolutely. So first off, confidentiality, I always contract my clients that I can use anecdotes from our work together in situations like this. So just to get that clear to start with, I was working with a young lady last year who came for all of 4 sessions because her parents wanted her to come. She wasn't ready, and she's not ready. She's not going to put that work in. So we had that very honest conversation, and she decided, okay, I'm going to leave for now, but I will come back in the future when I want to address this.
Did she come back?
Not yet. But this was only sort of very late last year. I'm talking December last year.
Okay. But yeah, you got to want to recover. You got to want to put the work in. You got to be willing and ready to do it.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have that experience, like, because with like, I can spot when people coming through with emails, because of the knowledge and the experience I've got around it, I can spot when somebody's not quite ready. And then the moment you go, right, here's my forms, here's my referral, here's my working agreement, here's my GDPR, all of a sudden you hear nothing.
Yeah. And that's what concerns me about counsellors who don't have that in-depth training for eating disorders. As you said, they can end up colluding with the eating disorder, and then that individual is getting so much worse. And of course, with eating disorders, especially restrictive eating disorders, there is an end point. There's only so ill someone can get before they pass the point of no return.
Yeah.
And it's so important to be able to spot that and work with that ambivalence for change before we get close to that threshold.
I think it's quite scary, like what we was talking about before we came on, about GPs as well being aware of it, because I think when clients are going through and they're getting referred, like we put referral forms in, and then they're like, you can see, like when they've come through and you've done an assessment, you can see how poorly they are and you can hear the illness, but then you send them over to the to the GPs, and the GP says, oh, there's nothing wrong with you, and you're like, no, this is not working, but we need the support.
Yeah. I don't know about you two, but I write a letter to every time I work with a client, I write a letter to the GP saying, this is what I think is going on. This is what I need you to. I'm very, very upfront with what I want a GP to do, hoping that they do it. And a lot of the time, to be fair to them, they do. But every so often, you do get a GP who clearly doesn't know what they're doing. And they just make it hard work, harder than it needs to be.
And that's when you stand at the screen of your computer and you start screaming at the screen, going, what are you doing? I won't use the language live on air, what I use, but I do stand there like some petulant teenager, like, because I think it's really important to have some awareness and some training in it. And I know that GPs are overstretched, they're exhausted, they're battling the NHS, which is also struggling at its knees at the moment. And I think they get, from my understanding, and I could have this wrong, it's like 2 hours training that they have around eating disorders.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I believe that is the average. I think Beat came out with that for Eating Disorder Awareness Week, didn't they?
Yeah, I had a question about that on the presentation I did this morning about our GPs trained in it, and it's like, well, not enough, no. Need more training. Again, that's probably a funding issue right there.
Yeah.
It is, but for me, that also shows the training that therapists need. A prime example of this, if someone's got anorexia, especially if we know they have issues with bone density, you do not, under any circumstances, prescribe them fluoxetine. If a GP doesn't know that, and they prescribe fluoxetine, and the client comes to you and says, oh, I've been started on fluoxetine, and you don't know they shouldn't have fluoxetine, there's no safety check in there. Part of our job is that safety check of, actually, I don't think you should be on fluoxetine. I'm going to talk to your GP about that. And then you can flag up with the GP, and then 9 times out of 10, they go, oh, no, you're right, I'll change it to sertraline or whatever.
Yeah. I think it's really, really important. I think it's also important to have that sort of 3-way conversation. It's like I work alongside with Jen, and so we have that multi-agency between us. But I think it's really important having the GPs on side. Something I put in my referral letter back in with the GP letter, and this has just come from experience. So when because I work with teenagers, so a lot of the teenagers are mixed with CAMs, GPs, same as the eating disorder services with the adults. But what I notice is that they can go in, get weighed, and it literally unravels all of the work I'm doing in the therapy room. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is going on? And you ask that one key question, are you being blind weighed? No. What do you know? And they know exactly what their weight and their percentages. And we need to change this. So when I put the referral letter in bright red letters, so you can't miss it, please do not, please blind weigh my client. make sure that they do not know their percentage or their weights, because otherwise you're unraveling everything we're doing in the room. And because clients are paying me privately, they're paying out their own pocket for recovery, and I want the best out their recovery. The client wants the best out their recovery, and something simple as not giving them that number will make such a big difference.
Absolutely. But have you found this, where these days, because you can access your medical records online, a lot of my clients are being blind weighed and then just logging in on the app?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting.
So it's still undoing all the work.
Oh, no.
But that's okay, because then we can just work with the clients on why they're doing that and the behaviour behind it.
That's true. That's all you can do, because at the end of the day, their records are gonna go on the app, so you can't really stop that.
No.
You can't stop them from seeing their own information, can you?
No.
But
I wish.
like what you said, working on why they're going in and doing that, and working on tactics for them to stop doing that, like thinking about it before they do that.
Yeah, because a lot of the time it is sort of that self-punishment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so working on the underlying reasons.
Yeah.
And the fear of change as well. I think that's the big, who am I without the anorexia or the eating disorder? And then what does my future hold without it? And it's safer to stay stuck in the eating disorder because it's painfully scary to know what the future holds.
Definitely.
Yes. And the sadistic little part of me really enjoys doing that work with clients, because you can see how uncomfortable they are looking into the future. And I love doing that journey with them. And I love supporting their growth through, I no longer someone with anorexia, I can just be me. But I do also enjoy that uncomfortableness as well. That's my dirty little secret when I'm a therapist.
I'm going to say the same. I always say, what part of you is talking to me? All I can hear is the eating disorder talking to me, and I call it out. And then the other part, I'm like, where have you gone? Let's get you back. Let's have this gorgeous part of your personality. And I think one thing I do with a lot of my clients is vision boards.
That's good.
And get them to do a vision board of what their future looks like and how they want to see it and where they want to go traveling and what they want to be doing and who's going with them on their journey for the future. And I think
like that.
I love it too, because I think it's really important to, when they're sitting there talking to me about their eating disorder, and I'm like, hang on a minute, I thought you were doing this a little while ago, and all I can hear is your eating disorder talking at me.
No, that's really good. I really like that. Well, before we do finish up all this live, is there anything you guys want to say? Final last words on this important topic?
I think it would be good to give any potential client watching an indication of what kind of training to be looking out for.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, I'm only really aware of 2 sort of good quality training for therapists, because I only know therapist training, but therapist training in the UK. And that is the post-qualifying diploma in eating disorders at Iron Mill College in Exeter, and then the NCFED Master Practitioner course.
Yeah, that's what we intended.
Yeah, I don't know if you 2 can add any other courses on, but those are only 2 that I'm aware of that you need to cover.
I think King's College are offering more courses now, which is good.
Yeah, because I'm doing the mantra training. I think it might be next week or the week after. It's like a taster day of stuff.
Yeah, the 15th.
But other than that, I don't know of any other places.
No, it's not a lot, but yeah. So considering there's those 2, but just having a look at those and looking them up, I'm always asking, are you trained in eating disorders? First question to ask. I think it's really important.
Yes.
Yeah. Also looking out for the little logos, like when I put my branding out, mine's got like the BACP, NCS, because I'm greedy, because I'm under both bodies, and then the other part is I put the NCFED training on. So it's making sure that when you're looking out for those logos to make sure they've been trained in it, they've got some sort of wealth of knowledge around it.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming today, Richard. Where can everyone find you if they want to look you up?
So I'm most active on my Instagram. So on Instagram, I'm the anorexia therapist, but I'm also on BACP website, the NCS website, and on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Well, Becky, we can find you at Counsellor Who Cares. Can't wait at .co.uk. It's .co.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is .com. Well, one of those two.
Okay. And Counsellor Who Cares on Instagram,
Twitter, and Facebook.
Amazing.
And LinkedIn.
And myself, I'm Ask Jen Up across all social media, and then Jen Tomey on TikTok, and then jenup.com for the website. But thank you so much, guys, for coming. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you for our next one.
Bye.